I recently rewatched the movie Sleepers. This is a movie that was released, I believe, in 1996, maybe 1997, somewhere in that range. I remember where I was living at the time that it was released, and so I can place it just from that memory. But I'm fairly sure it was 96 or 97. This was a movie in which was controversial even at the time because it is based on a book that the author claims is based on true events. Yet there were people at the time who said there's no record of any court cases like this taking place in the places that they were alleged to have taken place, and so forth. So they accused him of being a confabulator. But he insists that he took true events and disguised them to protect the innocent, as the phrase goes. And so that was what happened. And so that was how the book came out the way that it did. Regardless, the movie itself, looked back in retrospect today, if one looks back upon it in with the consciousness of Pedogate, it certainly is a movie that could be said to be I don't know, revelatory in certain ways. Now, when it came out in 1996, 97, people didn't really talk about these things much, and this whole Pedogate phenomenon, this whole notion that child sexual exploitation permeates so much of the moneyed class, the rich and the powerful, including in the hallowed ground. I shouldn't say hallowed, the opposite of hallowed grounds of Hollywood. It's a truly unholy place where movies like this were produced. Sleepers was a big budget movie. It had some heavy hitters in it. The biggest star looking back in it was Brad Pitt, although he wasn't really at the apex yet of his stardom. But there were others as well. Robert De Niro was in it. Minnie Driver, who was big for a time, was also in it. The story involves four young boys, adolescent boys, who got into a little bit of trouble over the summer, who just were doing these kinds of hijinks that were, mischievous, but weren't meant to harm anyone. But something happened, and one of their hijinks went awry and ended up seriously hurting someone and nearly killing him. And so as a result, the boys were forced to go to reform school somewhere upstate. Now, one of the weird things that I'm given to understand is that the institution where that was the reform school, that was the set for the reform school for this movie, is an institution that's very near, or that's in Newtown, that is to say that the site of Sandy Hook, Connecticut. We're talking, how many years? 15 years prior to that event, which some see as significant. So that's kind of strange that this movie involving the sexual exploitation of children is taking place at a site where a short time later many children were alleged to have been murdered. And what happens is Kevin Bacon, who's also another big name in this movie, Kevin Bacon and a bunch of other guards at the reform school are depraved and degenerate, and they rape the boys almost every day for the time that they're there. And there's even one occasion where there's another boy who they allegedly beat to death. So there are all of these things happening, all of these sexual abuses taking place in this reform school, and it seems to be, the suggestion is this is, kind of an endemic phenomenon. It's something that just permeates this institution, and it changes the boys forever. Two of them become, career criminals. They're so traumatized by the experience that they never recover, never go legit ever again. Two of them manage to hold on to some scrap of sanity and go on to forge successful lives for themselves. One of them being Brad Pitt, who plays a lawyer, and the main character, who's I can't remember the actor's name, but he was a bigger name than Brad Pitt at the time. He got top billing in this movie, as I recall. He's a reporter. So this is a secret that's been kept between the boys for most of their lives. But now a situation has come up where Kevin Bacon's character showed up at this bar where two of the guys were, the two who had become criminals, who'd basically gone the thug route. They see Kevin Bacon's character just stuffing his face at this bar, and they shoot him dead after asking him to, if he remembers who they are. So they kill the guy who was the pervert who molested them, along with several others, but he was the ringleader. And then the case goes to trial, with Brad Pitt accepting the role of being the prosecuting attorney, with the strategy of turning the tables, seeing to it, basically, doing such a poor job of being the prosecuting attorney that all of this exculpatory evidence comes out with regard to what happened to the boys at the reform school, that eventually results in, I guess, them being found innocent of the crime, although it seems like I'd forgotten about this temporarily. There's also the aspect of the story where they ask Robert De Niro's character, who plays a priest, like the neighborhood priest who looked after them, they ask him to come up with an alibi so that the two guys could be set free, because it can be established that they were at a different location. He ends up saying under oath that he has tickets to a Knicks game or something like that, some event that proves that they weren't at the site where they allegedly shot Kevin Bacon. So they pull it off. I guess I should have said spoilers, although this movie is more than 20 years old, so honestly, I don't know what you want from me. But looking back at this movie with respect to issues of Pedogate, questions of just when are they trying to tell us things that are actually happening Without tell us things without actually directly, explicitly telling us. Again, it's been my theory. It's my my take on this entire phenomenon, that something like what's called the revelation of the method has to be operational in order for these people to go on doing the things that they do. They have to show the world in one way or another that they are guilty, so that the world can't really have any the world, I mean, I'm speaking broadly here, so that the duped populace, the brainwashed, the people who just don't know what's going on, so that they don't really have any legitimate excuse not to know. And so in effect, they themselves are culpable in these crimes. I've talked about this with regard to 9/11. How if you even look, if you give the matter any scrutiny at all, the official story totally falls to pieces like a deck of cards, or like a stack of cards rather. And the same applies with regard to the larger issue of what I call Pedogate for shorthand. You look into things just slightly, and you realize the horrific crimes that are happening, and the ways in which the innocent are being brutalized, and not just on a low level. We're not just talking about an everyday kind of level with some garden variety child molester, who lives in your neighborhood or whatever, your working class neighborhood. I mean, not to say that's bad too, and that happens too. But here we're talking about high level stuff that's being done by extremely powerful people, and that's being covered up by institutions that are supposed to be seeking justice, seeking retributive justice. It was harder to say than I thought it would be. But who instead are covering up for the perpetrators because they are in league with them. So, seen in that regard, this movie Sleepers, even though it's of some might say doubtful provenance as far as whether it's the story that it tells, it claims to be based on a true story, whether the story that it's telling is actually true or not. The fact that Hollywood put a story like this out, which showed this kind of abuse taking place in plain sight, an open secret, something that all of these everybody at this reform school, this essentially juvie place, this hellhole, which again was filmed at this mental institution right near Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut. I mean, really hard to overlook that connection. Psychically speaking, or however you want to put it, metaphysically speaking, the fact that they're showing these kinds of things, but framing it in a certain way, framing it in such a way that it looks like they're the good guys, and that the movie is on the side of the good guys, because the good guys do win out and the evil are punished. And that's not to say that the maker of this movie, or that anyone directly involved in this movie, is evil and part of some evil, nefarious plan knowingly. But just to say that the fact that movies like this are being put out, that huge budgets were being put behind the filming of such movies as this, I think could be seen as evidence again for this kind of revelation of the method approach, whereby we are told, we the audience, we the gullible populace, who just think we're being entertained, we're being told something, we're being shown something, and kind of semi-related to this, but I feel the need to talk about it now. For some reason, you find Kevin Bacon turning up as a child in the child molester role in several movies. I don't know what that's all about. I'm not saying I think Kevin Bacon molests children. There's never been any evidence of that. There's never been any talk of that, any rumor of that. I just think it's strange that in several movies, that's been the role that he's been assigned to play a child molester. I remember there's a movie called The Woodman, I think, or The Woodsman, which was made sometime in the aughts, where he's like somebody who was arrested for child abuse and now is struggling to contain his urges. And there have been a couple of others. I just can't think of them right now. In JFK, he plays this gay hustler guy. So I don't know. You sometimes see the actors embodying these kinds of archetypes over and over again. Kevin Bacon didn't start out that way, of course. With Footloose, he wasn't anywhere near that kind of territory, but somehow he drifted into it. It's really weird. You think of people like, I tried to remember I hit the pause button and tried to remember his name, but I can't. I'd have to go back into my phone to find it, and I can't remember it right now. But another actor, close to A-list guy. You'll be screaming at the screen in a minute. He was married to Natasha Richardson, who died in a skiing accident, I believe. And this handsome, sad-faced Irish actor who has played the widower so many times in so many movies. And the weird thing is, he was a widower in movies before he actually became a widower in real life. And in a lot of movies, he became this, this actor who's plays some, martial arts expert, ex-intelligence officer who, like in the Taken movies, he's the they mess with his family and then he comes at them and comes after him and beats him up and takes the thugs down and all of this stuff. And he's in all these roles where he's this tragic kind of character who's lost somebody. Most often, as I'm remembering several times, he's a widower. He's somebody who's lost his wife, and he played this kind of role before his wife died in real life, and then she died in real life. If we believe the headlines, I mean, this is the kind of thing that makes you paranoid, makes you wonder. And there's something about, this guy whose name I don't recall, but I'll remember it as soon as I look it up on my phone. And who I'm talking about. He's this. He's got this kind of melancholy cast about him. He's perfect to play this role of an avenging widower. There's a sadness to him. There's a kind of anger and ruthlessness beneath it, but mostly there's just this melancholia and sadness about him. And he's been tasked to play these kinds of roles, just like Kevin Bacon was tasked to play these child molester roles. Why does this happen? It's very strange. I mean, there's something to be said for typecasting. There's something to be said for for more general kinds of seeing certain kinds of actors or actresses in certain kinds of roles. But when you get more specific than that, when you get to, not just a scummy guy, but a child molester, not just an action hero, but a sad-faced widower action star. It's very strange, these patterns that emerge. So that's my review / analysis of Sleepers. Interesting to see in retrospect now, with more than a couple decades having passed, and watching it now as an older man, as opposed to how I responded to it as a man in his 20s at the time, with the kind of knowledge or perspective that I had, where I just didn't see a ton of things that I see right now, that I have, the kind of perspective that I've gained for better or for worse through the years. Thanks for watching. My name is Andy Nowicki, and you can check out my work at altrightnovelist.com.